Welcome to the Border War Stories channel. My name is FB Senecal. I'm recording this on the 26th of August 2026. It's 60 years ago that the first shots were fired in the Border War. And the one guy who was involved there was that legend, Col Jan Breytenbach. I had the honor of interviewing him in 2017, and I asked him about his time in the Royal Navy, the Fleet Air Arm, and Umgulumbash, the first contact, and also he talks about how the recce started and the first operation of a submarine in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania.
At that time, South Africa was going through a tendency where things were changing. I joined the South African Army after I left the school, I became an officer, and I was in there for a number of years. I forgot now, 2 or 3 years or so. So I became a lieutenant and so on. But it was at a time when the Afrikaners were taking over from the Brits, from the English. You see, so you had to be an Afrikaner to get from point A to point B on the ladder, because now they're getting back their own on the Englishmen. When of course the English were there, the English got up there, you see, so that was it. And I was looking at this lot, I said, no, I'm not in for this sort of thing, I don't like it. So I left the army. I resigned from the army. And then I decided, well, I've got to have a some sort of a job or whatever. And one way or another, I ended up in Britain, in England, to go look for a job there with them, you see. And I got joined the Royal Navy because they were looking for guys. In fact, I worked at the diamond mines here for a while to get enough money to go and join the Royal Navy. And they wanted me to be in London or wherever it was at a certain date, typical bloody Brits, you see. And I had to resign, get on the ship, and to get there, to be sit there in front of these guys, all of the generals and colonels and whatnot. And he sits an Afrikaner wanting to join the Royal Navy. And they couldn't believe this either, you see. So anyway, so I did my selection there, my medical, and I passed that, and then I was interviewed by these buggers. And why do you want to do this, and why do you want to do that, and so on, and so on, and so forth. I think there were about 6 or 7 of them. But there's one guy who was obviously the guy in charge, an elderly chap, a Navy captain or something. And he was sitting there to one side. He didn't say a word. And then after a while, everybody asked what they wanted. I'd done my medical and all that sort of thing, so I was fit. He said to me, so I said, old chap, which school did you go to? In England, that was baie belangrik. So I went to Wellington Boys High. So I said, good God, did you really? Ek het geweet Wellington Boys High, Wellington hierso is. En daar's 'n Moses, was dat in Engeland, Wellington Boys High is jy weet op 'n hoë vlak. So good God, did you really? And I was in like Flint. I was acceptable to the Navy. It's the best thing, one of the best things that ever happened to me, but it is the best thing that happened to me when I joined the Royal Navy. I became an aviator, flew aircraft carriers. From aircraft carriers, to cut the long story short, I met my wife, but she's an English lady, and I spent my time in the Royal Navy, 5 years, mostly in the Mediterranean, and Far East, and so on. It was battle they had in Egypt, about passing from the Mediterranean for ships, what's the name, involved with that. So I even got a medal, you see, my first medal. And I met my wife along the line somewhere, you see. And if you want to have a family, and if you want to have a family life, you must never join the Royal Navy, because they come first. That's for sure. We stuck it out for a while and so on. But then South Africa left the Commonwealth. And that forced me to think again, because I had to take out British nationality to stay in the Royal Navy, or I must leave. And if I leave, I can't be any longer in the Fleet Air Arm, in the Royal Navy, because now I'm a foreigner, you see. Anyway, so I made up my mind. I said to myself, South Africa is going to see bloody problems, but I think I better get back to South Africa. So we both came back here. And it just so happened, I went up to Pretoria to look for a job in the army. And I ran into an old commander of mine, Willem Low. He was a paratrooper. And he said, "Wat 'n donder maak jy hierso?" So I said, "Well, he was a general. Generaal, ek sluit weer aan by die army." Hy sê, "Wat wil jy wees?" Ek sê, "Nee, ek weet nie, ek wil wat daar sê, maar ek enigiets solank ek in die army kan wees." Hy sê, "Nee man, ek is bevelvoerder van die paratroopers, wil jy nie 'n paratrooper word nie?" Ek sê, "Ja, definitief, jy weet." And that's how I ended up with the paratroopers in Bloemfontein. And the rest is, was army military history was revolved around that. Well, in the paratroopers, all courses are tough. Otherwise, it's not a course. Yes, it was a tough course. It was, yeah, physically and mentally also. But I was what they call the Veldkornet in those days, and Willem Low was a lieutenant colonel or commandant, and I knew Willem Low from previously when I was in the South African Army, when I got my commission in the South African Army. As a really tough bastard. He really was a difficult old bugger. But he and I clicked, you see. So when I became the adjutant, we worked together very well. And so I decided to stay on and become a paratrooper. I didn't even know we had paratroopers. So I came from the flying world, flying aeroplanes, to a world where you jump out of aeroplanes, you see. And that was how I started with becoming a paratrooper. Yeah. We were training some of the policemen. We're not very well trained in bush work, bushcraft and that sort of thing, you see. And operating in the bush. By that time we were doing it. And so I was for a while I was a staff officer in Windhoek Command. I think that's where I fully joined up with the police and so on. So we trained some of them to be able to do special forces type operations themselves. Because the army was not allowed to do it by law. You can't do police work if you're in the army. And of course the police, they got all the ins and outs about who's doing what and so on, and who they want to sort out and who not, you see. So they tried to sort a special force thing, but I was then involved with this first contact they had in South Africa. They found a terror base. What's the name of the chap, the policeman? I mean, he was a well-known guy. He used to do all sorts of things. Swanepoel, yes. He was in charge of that lot. And they were going to attack the terrorists that come in and establish the base. And so myself and 3 other paratroopers, we were made available to train them how to attack a base. So in the end, we were there also attacking this base. And so we got a close contact then with the police in those days. And from that, it was decided to start the recce's, because that sort of thing was going to happen more and more as time go by, you see. And so I was given the job to start the recce's based on the Special Forces, or the SAS. I was posted to the Rhodesian SAS, who was still then part of the British SAS. So myself and a few of my other guys. So we had to do the whole rigmarole, being accepted in the SAS, the running and jumping and all sorts of things, and they sort you out, and you must go do this and do that, and they really hammer you all the way to see whether you can take the punch, you see. And so when I came back, Willem Low, they said I must start an SAS type situation for South Africa. Because you probably know the thing about the SAS, how they work.
Yes. So yeah. But this was, you started here in Oudtshoorn, right?
Yeah, I was in Oudtshoorn then, yeah. Then we call it the special forces here in South Africa, Special Forces Association, but it was an SAS thing. And that's how I ended up in all sorts of bloody wars in Africa as well. Yeah, well, I don't know whose idea it was, but you don't normally ask. I'm trying to get the story now right. It happened so long ago, I can't remember all these bloody things. I was called in, I think it's by General, what's his name? He was a guy from the Second World War, military intelligence eventually. I've forgotten his name now. Anyway, they wanted to, I suppose they wanted to show the rest of Africa that we can sort them out, you see, that sort of thing. And they had decided, by that time we had some submarines, you see. And they decided that maybe we do something up the coast with the submarines to show them that we are tough guys here in the far south. So I ended up doing my my diving course first of all, and then of course I was a paratrooper and so on, and working together with the submarines, South African submarines. They just got them a year or two before, so everything was new for them as well. And then I mean, I didn't have any at the top level what they were thinking about. I haven't got a bloody clue. But we ended up, we're going to now sort out the people there in East Africa to show them that we got Vuma, you see, so they better be careful. So we ended up, excuse me, sailing all the bloody way up the east coast of Africa to what's the name? Dar es Salaam, yeah. Dar es Salaam area, just south of it actually. But we went into that area. And, well, actually it was Dar es Salaam itself. And then we had to go ashore and blow things up. Basically anything that you feel like blowing up, you see. Well, we had some dams with us. There was no actual target to blow up. And all they wanted to show evidently was that the people in Dar es Salaam, those people in that part of Africa, were unhappy with their government. And so they are doing things which ought not to be done. So now we are doing the things which ought not to be done. The guys against the government didn't know that they were now being used, as it were, against their local government. So anyway, we went ashore with kayaks, 3 kayaks, and then we blew up the British consulate's car, his own car, his private car. It was a beautiful car. We blew that up and other cars up, and we blew up across the river. There was a bridge which we blew up, and we blew up things here and there, but nothing specific, just anything, to show evidently for the rest of Africa that the people inside Dar es Salaam are not happy with their government, and they're blowing up things. So anyway, we came back on board the submarine, and then we came back. It was all over the world, the newspapers and what have you, other people, things blowing up there and so forth. And that was my first introduction to the submarine. So we decided by then, because of that, that we would be training our special forces guys to do that sort of thing with the Navy, with the Air Force, and the rest of the Army. They can do things in Africa in small groups, you see. So that's a good thing, because you could do a lot. For instance, in Angola, things were going skew, and in South Africa, things were just hanging in the sky anyway. And wherever the Portuguese were at the time, they were giving up and so on and so forth, the things were getting a bit dicey for us. So I did some training with the SAS, I said, of the Rhodesian SAS, to give us the background, the ability to do so. So that's how I started the Reckies. And that was our job, was to operate in Africa and blow things up and sink things and what have you. Not to murder people, let's be honest about that too, but to make them think that their people who are living in their country don't love their own government, you see. So we make it pretend that it was their own people who's doing it, not us. And anyway, so this went on, and I think the generals looked at this lot, and they start to see this unit of mine, which wasn't a big unit, only about 20 or 30 guys. They could be used in a political role, you see. And I said, not a damn. No ways. Well, General, he was the chief of the of military intelligence, Lutz. He wanted now to start using us for sorting out people who are against the government. And that's not our job. You see, so I said, I don't agree with you. Yes, but you will. So I said, I'm not going to. So then I was fired, you see. I was removed from the Reckies. And it was actually a good thing. Then I went more into a parachuting site and that sort of thing for the paratroopers.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe. In the next one, Colonel Breytenbach will be talking about the start of 3-2 Battalion, and after that we'll go into the Kasinga one. There's quite a few to come. See you in the next one.